Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video we are reviewing some Huda Beauty, which is always a good time. You guys know I'm a big fan of her eyeshadows and her eyeshadow formulas. Today we are going to be reviewing the new Creamy Obsessions palettes. I bought both of them. We have the Greige Creamy Obsessions and the Neutral Creamy Obsessions. I am so excited to get into these. These are actually a new innovation from Huda and I have been dying to get my hands on them because they are both cream palettes. In her last Obsessions release, which were the matte Obsessions palettes, which by the way I loved, they had great formulas, she did include a couple of creams. I think either each one had 2 cream shades out of 9 or one had 1 cream shade and one had 2. Something like that. The point was I truly did enjoy the cream shade they added to those palettes, and so I'm very excited and very curious to test out palettes that are fully cream. Another brand that has done creams in the past as part of their palettes is Pattyalonso. Natasha Denona has also given us creamy shades in her midi palettes before. I've never been one to complain whenever we get cream shades in palettes, but I am curious to see if I'll enjoy them just as much dealing with a palette that is all creams rather than a combination of creams and mattes. So we'll see. If you're as excited about this video as I am to film it, give the video a thumbs up and let's go ahead and get started. To apply these shadows today, I'm going to be using Rephr brushes. You guys know they are one of my favorite eyeshadow brush brands and the best in my opinion when it comes to having affordable natural brush hairs. Now I did want to mention that the day I'm posting this video, they just came out with their first line ever of fully synthetic brushes. They have brushes B01 to B03 right here now available on their website. B02 is going to be incredible when it comes to foundation because of the synthetic hairs and how dense this is. It's going to be amazing to glide your foundation on and keep all of your coverage. And because these hairs are synthetic, you're not going to have any streaking and it's not going to absorb your liquid or cream products. And the same thing applies to B1 and B3. These I will be using for my eyes today. B03 is the same size and shape as the Rephr number 1, except this one is all synthetic. And then B01 is going to be great for concealer or for cream application of your eyeshadows, which is the way I'm going to be using it today. Anyways, the second link you'll see listed in the description of this video is the Rephr brushes link. In case you guys are curious about this release or if you want to try their brushes, I expect the prices of these synthetic brushes to be really good because I have heard synthetic brushes are a lot more affordable to make than natural hair brushes, so definitely check it out and let me show you what these palettes look like. Here's the outside packaging for the Neutral Brown Creamy Obsessions palette, and take a look right here at the inside of it. I was very curious to see that even though majority of these shades are creamy shades, she has a set shade in there as well. In this case this one, and this is a powder formula. I believe the rest of them are cream, but we will definitely confirm that when I swatch everything. And then here's the outside packaging of the Greige Creamy Obsessions palette, and then once you open it, take a look right here at the inside of this one. Again, a bunch of beautiful creamy shades, some foiled, some shimmer, some matte, and then in this case, this one here is the set color, which is also a matte powder shadow. Let's go ahead and get into the swatches. I'm very, very curious to see how these swatch and how these blend and how these apply in general. Very nice pigmented creamy shades so far. Ooh, this foiled creamy shimmer here has an interesting texture to it. So here is the first row of colors. That one is not pigmented, it's just that it's basically the color of my skin. See, here's the second shade and you can already see how much pigment these have. And here's that dark brown cream. From a little bit further away you can see that color a bit better, but it just is the color of my skin pretty much, so it's hard to see. I promise you it's there and it looks pigmented. The camera is having a hard time picking it up. And then here's that foiled shimmer creamy shade right there. That looks lovely. I'm going to swirl these together. Here's the set shade, which is a matte. And then more creamy shades right here at the bottom. Here's these on my fingertips. Middle shade swirled together. The set shade, which is a powder and it's very light. Creamy and creamy. This creamy down here is going to be a great transition type color. And we only have one more shade to go. Here's the swatch of that one. It's got beautiful purpley sparkles to it. So take a look right here at the creamy swatches. I feel like the dark colors look really beautiful swatched, but then the set color pretty much looks translucent. Again, I can see that I have product there, but it's not really showing up well on camera, is it? It's, again, a very light shade, kind of similar to the color of my skin. And the same thing is happening to this one. You can see this one a bit better because it's just a tad bit peachier. I'm going to move on to swatching the grayish palette on my other hand. So here are these shades right here. This one is the one I swirled together. This is a very pale pinky creamy shade. And then we have just a step darker than that. This kind of like mauve-y but pretty light tone color here. Let's keep going with the swatches, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record about what I'm about to say, because I do say it every time Huda releases a palette, but they're really good at putting everything you need in their palette color story wise. There's always a light shade, there's always a transition shade, there's always something you can put on the inner corner, there's always a deep shade to like darken everything with. I think they make really thought through palettes no matter what size they are. Like this is pretty monochromatic, nothing super colorful, but there's still a really good variety of looks that you can create with a color story like this one. Okay, here's the foiled shimmer creamy shade, which is beautiful. And here's how it compares to the one from the other palette. The other one's a bit lighter, a bit more pearly whites. Then I have this grayish creamy color, one that has a bit of shimmer to it. And this is the set shade on this palette, which once again is not showing up. I was going to say I thought they are the same set shade, but no, because this one is more pinky and the other one has a bit more warmth to it. But it looks like the set shades are literally there just to make sure that your eyeshadows don't crease, maybe, because they don't have a ton of color to them. They're not pigmented shadows. It looks like we're supposed to get whatever amount of pigmentation we want from the creams and then just maybe tap that one over top to set or something. Only one shade left to swatch, which I think is the darkest one in this palette. It's a very, very dark cool toned color. Almost a black, but it's actually like a very dark cool tone brown. So take a look right here at the color story of this grayish palette. And here is both palettes swatched side by side in case you guys are curious to see the differences between both of them. This one is a more neutral color story versus this is a pretty cool tone color story. I think honestly both of them are beautiful. So far I'm gravitating towards this one though. I swatched the palette. I'm still curious about how everything is going to work, so let's just start with a look. First I'm going to use the neutral brown Creamy Obsessions, and I'm going to start with this color up here, which is the lightest creamy color in the palette. And I'm just going to tap it and swipe it all throughout the crease of my eye. That shade is kind of working as a base color on me. It's not adding a ton of pigment. So I'll keep building from here and go to a darker shade. Well, duh, this is the one you could barely see swatched on my hand, so that makes sense. Same brush, and I'm going to this color down here, which is just one step darker. And once again, tapping and then swiping just a bit to blend things out. Now we are getting a little bit of a contour going there. A little bit of depth, if you will. I'm bringing it in a little bit more. And I would say that so far things are blending seamlessly, but it's not really that much of a challenge since we haven't gone deep enough with the shade. So let's switch to the new B03 and let's go for this one here. This one swatched pretty dark when I swatched it earlier, so let's see how this one applies and how we can blend it. I'm adding it to the outer third of my eyelid, outer V of my eye, and then with the tip of the brush, I'm just going to blend it into the previous shades. Okay, that blended instantly. I'm going to just rectify up here, but it kind of just melted into the other colors I had added. So far so good. I'm going to grab some more of that same shade and I'm going to add it to the inner part of my eyelid here. Let's do a halo eye. I think it's been a while. So inner third of the eyelid, bring it into the crease ever so slightly, and then we connect right here, right on top. A little bit of that same color to this outer part once again, just to intensify things further. And back with my B01, I'm going to make sure these edges look nice and smooth. I think I want to continue to intensify things just for science. I like the way things are heading. Let's make it darker, I guess. Why not? So I'm going to go into the darkest shade that this palette has, which is this one up here. And once again, with this same brush, just patting it on the outer V first. I'm going to very lightly blend it into the previous shades. Also adding a bit of that color to the inner third of the eyelid here, but I'm not blending it as high as I did earlier. Time to use a bit of shimmer. I'm thinking this color here, and this is a Rephr number 2 flat brush. This one is a regular natural hair brush from Rephr that I've had forever and I love. And I'm adding it on the edge of the inner corner and also back here, just leaving a space right in the center of my eyelid. So with my finger in this very light shade here, I might have gotten a little bit too much of it. I'm going to tap the center of my eyelid, just tapping it in place, just like so. Ooh, I love the sparkle. I love it. The sparkle is very nice. So I'm tapping, 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 and then I'm just going to make sure it blends into the rest of the makeup. And here's how things are looking so far. I am very curious to try the set shade, so let's do that. And here is how things are looking so far. I am very curious to try the set shade, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going for a fluffy brush. This one is from Wayne Goss, brush 05. Because I think I need something that is not too dense to just kind of dust that shade over what I did. It is, as I said, kind of translucent. I don't think it's changing anything as far as the look is concerned. I think it's just meant to make everything stay in place, you know? So just tapping it all around the shimmer. For my under eyes, I'm going to use Rephr's 03 brush to smoke things out right underneath my lower lash line. A little bit of this shimmer creamy shade right here in the center. I'm just applying it with my finger. I want my under eye to kind of mimic what I did on top. So with a Rephr number 13, I'm going to grab this shade down here and I am going to back and forth, just blend things out under the eye. Lastly, I want a bit of this color on the inner corner as well. So with a small flat brush, I'm just going to tap things in place here. I have a brown eyeliner from Charlotte Tilbury, which I want to add right on my waterline. And before any mascara or lashes go on, this is the finished first look with this creamy palette here. I think, honestly, first impressions, I thought it was going to be even easier than it was. And I think that the colors, I don't want to say, they kind of melted a bit too much into one another. Like, I can't see the gradient effect as much as I usually can when it comes to powder shadows. With powder shadows, I feel like when you diffuse, it looks a little different. I don't know how to explain it, but usually, like, I see darker and then a little lighter and then a little lighter. And here, yes, it is darker towards the bottom, but you don't see the gradient as much as with powder shadows. Am I saying that this is bad? It's not. And I'm not saying that, but I'm just used to, I guess, powder shadows. So that's just the only difference I can tell so far. Let's move on to the grayish palette, which I am so excited to finally try. I'm going to start with the lightest shade once again. And this one I do think will kind of maybe brighten things up a bit because it is lighter than my complexion, see? So I tapped it in place first, and now I'm just going to distribute it with this B01 brush from Rephr all throughout my eyelid area. And I'm just going to make sure I have a nice even base everywhere. Now that that's nice and brightened and even, with the same brush, I'm going into the mauvier shade here in the center. And with this one, I'm going to start deepening things up ever so slightly here. Just tapping it on the outer V of the eye. This gave a little bit of dimension to the eye look, but it's still a pretty bright shade. So let's keep going. I want to grab this shade here with the B03, and I'm just going to tap it right on the outer third of my eyelid first. And then once I have the level of intensity that I want, I'm going to start blending it into the rest of the shades on my crease, just back and forth with the tip of this brush. One thing I noticed is very easy to do with these creams is like clean right here. When you go a little bit too far down, it just gives you such a nice sharp edge. Okay, so here's how that looks like blended. I'm not doing a halo eye on this one. I'm just going to do a regular gradient inward smoky eye. I'm going to grab, not that shade. I'm going to grab this shade here next, which is just like a bronze shimmer, and I'm going to add it right on the edge back here, just tapping it with my finger. And because that is darker than what I had blended, I'm going back with the darkest color I had used, and I'm going to also just build that one back here. That's, I think, what I mean when I say that sometimes they blend a little too easily. The dark colors blend very easily into the lighter colors, and it tends to kind of fade them a bit. Grabbing this one next, and I'm adding it to the rest of my eyelid, just patting it in with my finger. That looks beautiful. Rephr number 2 and that same shimmer shade, and we are finishing up the inner corner with that. And then I'm also just going to define the eyelid area a bit. I'm going to use the darkest shade in this palette on a Rephr number 3, and I'm going to just back and forth smoke things out right under my lower lash line. And then with the mauve shade on a Rephr number 13, I'm going to smoke that out, just back and forth, diffusing the edge. I think I'm going to use the same brown eyeliner over here. And here is the final look before I put on any mascara or lashes. I think my favorite thing about these palettes might just be the beautiful intense shimmer shades. I don't know, I kind of miss having at least a couple of powders to sandwich in between these creams. I forgot to set this eye, so let me go back and set it with the set shade down here. I'm just going to once again just dust some set over what I created with a fluffy brush. Let me put on some mascara and lashes, let me gather my thoughts, and I'll be back to let you know what I think of these. I'm back. I applied some mascara and lashes, and I'm finishing up this look with some blush, which I just had a pretty hard time picking blush for these looks because everything looks too warm in comparison to the eyeshadows today. This is Taffeta's Rose from Givenchy, and I'm applying it with a brush, just tapping it. I feel like this shade Borderline also looks a bit too warm for these eyeshadow looks, but I already committed to it, so we're doing it. For lip liner, I'm doing the Anastasia lip liner in Muted Mauve. I think this is going to be perfect for these looks. I'm filling it in just a bit. And in the center, Prima Donna lip gloss from Pat McGrath. Now that the looks are completed and I have lashes, mascara on, lip, blush, whatever, take a look right here at the finished looks with the creamy palettes from Huda Beauty. I honestly do like the end result. I enjoyed the experience of blending these creamy shadows into one another. I think it might just be that I'm not super used to the idea of using all cream. I think I stand by my statement that things blend out a bit too much into each other when you're using exclusively cream shades, because as I said, I usually see a bit more of an ombre effect when I blend out my shadows. I might have done a better job on this side here. I do see a bit more of a contrast between the darkest part here and the lightest part, but with this eye, with the first eye I did, I just miss a little bit more contrast. I wish we had a bit more of an ombre effect. With that said, I think the shadows perform beautifully. I do think that these creams blended seamlessly into one another. I thought they were pigmented enough. I'm glad that they put very dark shades in both palettes, because that is going to guarantee that you do get the depth that you desire in your eye look. I think people with darker complexions maybe might have a harder time using this one here because it might be a bit too ashy looking. I think I can make it work, but if I had not even too dark of a complexion, like a very warm complexion, this might just look too ashy on you. My skin is pretty neutral, sometimes leaning a bit more cool tone, especially when I'm pale. So I think it looks okay on me, but just be mindful if you have a warm complexion that this just might look a bit too ashy. I would go for this one if your complexion is warmer and test it out first, because this is a bit more on the neutral side. Do I have a favorite? I don't know. There are things I love about both of these. I like the shimmer in the neutral brown creamy palette better. I love how bright and how glimmery and shimmery it is, but I felt like with this palette, this color down here does not show up on my skin tone at all, so it's kind of a miss for me. And this one barely shows up. It's just like a little bit darker, but like not too much. So until I got to this shade right here, I wasn't seeing enough depth on my eye. So that's a con with this one, but then I really love the shimmer. I enjoyed using the light creamy shades in this one more because I did see a difference right away, even if they were just brightening my eyelid area to begin with. So I don't know if I have a preference. I'll have to keep playing with them and testing them out. Do I recommend them? I think I do, but I would say if you're curious about them and you want to try them, maybe just try one first and see how you like playing with these formulas and see how you like the way they blend into each other and whatnot, and then decide whether you maybe want the other one or not. I don't feel like these are going to be for everyone, and I don't know how much I'll end up reaching for these in the future. I like the color stories a lot, but I think only time will tell in that respect. I do want to continue to play with them for sure. I think that they are very interesting and very different formula-wise to a lot of what we currently have on the market at the moment. Remember, if you're interested in the new all-synthetic Rephr brushes, the link is down below in the description box. Definitely check them out. Also, of course, if you're interested in purchasing these palettes, the link is the first one in the description box below. So definitely check them out down there. And that is all I have for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I truly hope that this video was helpful and insightful. I feel like I'm not necessarily giving you a very decisive review, but that is because I personally am a little bit conflicted about them. There are some things I love about them, and then there are some things that are holding me back just a bit. Anyways, I love you all so much. Thank you for watching today's video, and I hope to see you back in the next one. Bye.